Well, welcome to See, Hear, Love. We're so glad that you joined us on Wisdom Wednesday. And today it's all about your story, the power of your story, and staying true to your values, choosing what you believe and what's possible for your life, and not being intimidated by the scope or size of your vision. And who wouldn't want to know and learn that? And we have a very special guest with us, who is the co-founder of the charity Live Different. She's an author and international speaker who shares how to live life authentically and with passion. And she's also the founder of, yes, I'm so excited, Brave Soles, SOLES, which is a social enterprise based in the Dominican Republic, which they make handmade leather shoes with recycled tire soles. What a creative idea. And I know Cheryl is wearing some of those.
Let me tell you, ladies.
Yes. You're going to be taking a picture of it. You're going to be taking a picture of it, and we're going to put it on our website so you can see. Crystal Earl, welcome to the show. Woo! We love entrepreneurs. We can't wait to talk to you about all the great things that you do.
Okay.
So welcome.
Good.
So, and it's good that you're not in the Dominican Republic, but you're here with us
Yes.
in the studio. So welcome. And also a huge welcome to my beautiful co-hosts, Cheryl and Joanna. Crystal, I know that you do a lot of things. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you're an author. But one of the things that really interests us and what I love about you is just your passion to help people understand and communicate their story. I guess I'll throw this out to the table. When I say power of story or power of your story, what comes to mind? Why is story so important? I mean, to us, you know, and to you, Crystal, as well.
Well, you know, not to take a biblical context, but I right away, the Bible says, you know, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. There is power and freedom and breakthrough when we testify or tell our story of what God has done and what we've overcome. And so it's a rally cry because people think it contextualizes everything. If you've gone through it, then I can do it. And if, you know, so you put a face to that bravery. Gosh, okay. I can do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I think.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah.
Crystal, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that one of the things that we forget about story is that the power comes in being honest about where we've come from, what we've come through, and not pretending that everything is just glossy. You know, that's actually because when we learn about someone else's story, what draws us to them is the reality that it gives us permission to be okay with our own story too and where we've come from. Because if we just stay inside our heads, we can quickly isolate ourselves and think that either we're the only one that's ever gone through this, no one could ever understand, and that is where shame likes to grow. And shame likes to keep things hidden. And so for me, the power of my story is looking at it, owning it, being honest, owning the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, owning the forgiveness to myself and others, and letting that become what I'm embracing and what I'm taking forward with me.
It's good. Yeah. Joanna, what about you?
The word of the year for 2016 was post-truth.
Okay.
Right? And so post-truth basically means facts don't matter as much anymore. It's whoever tells the best story wins. And some of those stories aren't literally true. That's why it's post-truth. But people care much more about a compelling story than they do about facts. And so, you know, when we're trying to reach people with anything that we want to talk about, I mean, I care most about reaching people with the good news of Jesus. And I do think that it's true. I know that it's true. But also the most compelling way to reach people is not with all the facts about why we can trust the Bible's accuracy. Most people are very tired of that kind of content in their lives. The thing that they are most compelled by is, this is how this thing changed my life. This is the story of what's going on in my community of faith. This is what's going on. And it compels people in a way that sort of left brain fact stuff can only take you so far. And so the stories are compelling, particularly at this time.
And wasn't that also a way that Jesus drew people? He was one of the best storytellers of all.
Parables and storytelling. I agree. I think, you know, I've been speaking for like 20 years, which means I started when I was 11. And I was a really amazing orator at 11. Anyway, 20 years of speaking. But it was interesting because, you know, at first I always thought, I had to be more of a preacher, or I had to be, you know, more, you know, doing some of my hermeneutics and things, and that's important. But as soon as I stepped out and had the courage to share my story, it was like something opened up
Yeah.
for others, but for me.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because you're right. You don't share your story because of shame, so you hide
Yeah.
it. But as soon as you share it, all of a sudden people come and go, "Oh my goodness, I experienced the same thing. I didn't know there was anybody else, a Christian person that went through that and was
Yeah.
brave enough to share that." And then we had a chance to pray and really like connect. And so for 20 years, honestly, I've shared my same story. Like people are like, "So what are you going to talk about?" I'm like, "My story," and God's story enmeshed in it. They're like, "Okay, well, my story."
Yeah.
Well, my story, and it just is that, and you know, people are like, okay, because the story is so full of grace and trauma,
Yeah.
and you know, courage and absolute failure,
Yeah.
and everybody can relate in some
Yeah.
way.
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
think that's what it is, and so I'm glad. I mean, it's amazing because we're all storytellers in our own way.
Yeah.
You know, whether in church or in media, you know, whether you're coaching and the work you do, it's that. You know, Crystal, it has to come from a place for you to now, you know, be on international stage to talk about story, and we'd love to hear your story and learn from you about how you got to, you know, where you are, what motivated you to do these great things that you're doing. So yeah, let's hear. I'd love to hear more about you.
Well, so Live Different in particular was, I'm originally from Saskatchewan, so I'm giving a shout out to the prairies right now.
All right.
Hey.
Live Different was, before it ever became like anything in life, you know, things exist before we see them and we can touch them and they're tangible. But the dream for Live Different came alive inside of me, actually birthed out of a tragedy. When I was 24, I had just started out. I was a young youth pastor. I was newly married, and life was moving forward. And for all intents and purposes, everything was kind of, you know, you've got the plan. You know, I love God. Ain't nothing bad gonna happen today. And so,
Yes, many have said that.
And it was a September 25th, and I got a phone call, and that phone call radically changed my life because it was my dad calling me to tell me that my brother had just been found dead.
Wow.
In an industrial accident. He had died trying to save somebody else. He was 20, and it was his. It was a summer job, and he was just finishing up and getting ready, saving money
What
for
a
school.
hero.
And so losing Andrew, there's so many things around death and sudden loss and the shock. But one of the things that came so alive to me was the incredible, irreplaceable value of life. And you lose someone, and you know, when you lose them, it didn't actually matter the titles they had. It didn't matter where they came from. It didn't matter. You know what? And quite honestly, in so many ways, it didn't even matter what other people said about them. It matters who they were to you.
Yeah.
Because it matters that they were loved by you. And so that loss was what inspired me to begin to think about things differently. And so the night before my brother's funeral, I went into his room, and my parents had asked me to go find something to put in the casket with him. And I was sitting on the edge of his bed in his room, and I looked over, and on the bedside table was a Bible that I'd given him when he was 18. And I'd actually forgotten. I'd given it to him. He had gone away to work, and and on the inside, I'd written a little note saying, you know, Andrew, I love you. And my prayer is that the words of this book will change your life. And I go flipping through this Bible, and I'm just looking, and there was one verse that was underlined, and it was Jeremiah 29:11. And for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. And I remember reading that and realizing that plans are, man, we will make our plans, but yet there's something bigger in play. And the reality that happened in my heart in that moment was I realized that I could decide what I was going to begin to believe about this, and that doesn't negate anything that happened. But I began to realize that I can become open to where life can take me from this point forward. And so a year later, I found myself traveling across the country in an orange 1975 Volkswagen Westphalia van with the original orange and green
Amazing.
plaid interior.
Oh, I love it.
So cool.
To just outside Toronto, and with this dream that eventually became Live Different. And the reason that this came alive inside of me, because I'd been going into schools, helping the local schools where I was working, helping them, we're trying to find motivational presentations, because this was at the time in Canada when they were just starting to get used to this idea. And it was really hard to find somebody, and that was not, an older adult that's like, I climbed Mount Everest and so can you, or a cop that's like, don't do drugs, they're bad, but that cop is, it was so disconnected, and it was so many people coming in saying to students, don't do this, make this choice. And you know what? We have messages like that coming at us all the time. And I've never responded when someone says, do this or don't do that. Yeah. That actually makes me bristle, and it makes me, but no one was going in and inviting them to think differently and to ask a more beautiful question about their lives. Like, what's the greater purpose for my life? Why am I here? What's possible if I could think about who I am differently?
Wow.
And so that was where the birth of Live Different happened. So Live Different has evolved and grown over the years, and it's been an exciting thing to see what's happened. But ultimately, at the very core, that's the very foundation of why it exists, is to call young people to think differently about who they are and about why they're here.
What's been the response? Because that is a switch. I grew up in a generation where it was that. Do this, don't do this.
Yeah.
Here's your list.
Yeah.
Stay away from this, this person, this,
You're
da, da,
either in or out.
ba, ba, ba.
Yeah.
You're in or out.
Yeah.
There's always that, which I believe is more, it's easier to then kind of rate, or then you know that you're good or bad by having a checklist.
Yeah.
Check, check. What has been the response that you've seen when you've said, wait a second, let's make some choices?
So I would say, quite honestly, one of the things that I felt very strongly right from the beginning when we started was that I wanted to have very normal people. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but no superstars in terms of like they've done all these great things. In fact, we would have young adults and we would bring them on. We created a leadership program, and we would train them to learn how to tell their story. So I've worked with hundreds of people to help them understand the value of their story, and to not gloss over it, to not look for things, to just be okay with who you are and what your story is and own it. And the response has always been so refreshing, because some authenticity doesn't have to be about it doesn't have to be like laying everything bare and like bleeding on the stage for people, so that works for some people, but the truth of authenticity is almost like to be transparent and to allow the truth to come through. And so that's how we would always work with our team members is, just own it, be honest about where you're at, but be honest about what the hope is behind everything, and where what love has done in your life. And so the response has been amazing. And out of that, we were going to schools, and we were in let's say about 75 or 100 schools a year, which is great, but we had a really big team. We were traveling around, and we were talking to students about, your life is powerful, you can make a difference, you can do something. But we weren't able to find something that could connect them to the bigger picture of what was going on globally.
Connect the dots.
Connect the dots. And Viktor Frankl said it always so eloquently, that our greatest need is to find meaning in why we're here, right? That pull for meaning, and that was always in the back of my mind. And in 2004, I went to Dominican Republic on a selloffvacations.com. Back to the early 2000s.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Anyways, and we went there on last minute vacation, and I was sitting in the resort, and if you've ever gone to an all-inclusive resort, there's a couple things that happen. One is that there's always, even by 10 in the morning, there's drunk, sunburnt people by the pool that are trying to dance the Macarena unsuccessfully every time, everywhere you go. It's like the universal spirit of
Horribly.
Yes,
Horribly.
yes,
Yeah.
And so I'm
that.
so this was so not the vacation that I dreamed of escaping to. And so after the second day, I'm like, this is going to be a long week. And I went in so this is 2004, okay? I'm just putting this out there. I go into the internet cafe in the hotel. Okay, I live in
I do remember.
It's definitely
Does Joanna know?
2004.
Does Joanna know what that
Go to an
is?
internet
Joanna,
Joanna, do you know what an internet cafe is?
I have never used one, but I know when they are.
And then you get the sound of beep.
Yeah, totally.
And you're like this, and then when people
Putting in
walk by, you're always like
points.
moving forward, because if you're writing a personal email, you're like, I don't want anybody to see it.
Yeah. So this is Dominican Republic, okay? So imagine,
Hilarious.
my internet there is still sketchy now in 2017. In 2004, it was like you could hear like the little monkey just trying to crank out the internet, right? So I send this email to my friends who were missionaries somewhere in Dominican Republic. I knew nothing about the geography of it. I sent out this email and I said, hey, if you're around anywhere close, I would love to see what you do. Okay? And I had been exposed briefly to things that were going on globally, but I had never really been, in it. And so there, and as I'm sitting there, hallelujah, an email comes up. You can appreciate this. As I'm reading my emails, an email comes up from them, says, hey, if you get this in time, we'll pick you up tomorrow
Get
morning.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Wow.
we'll pick you up tomorrow morning and show you what we do.
love it.
So the next morning, 10 in the morning, I walk by all the drunk, sunburnt people dancing the Macarena by the pool, and I get in the back of this little pickup truck, and I drive 7 minutes away from the resort that I was staying at.
Just 7.
7 minutes. Take this little turn down this dirt road that gets progressively worse and worse into this little village. And in this community, I got out, and it was, like stepping off of a commercial. Like I always likened it to like when I was a kid, there'd be World Vision commercials on TV. And I remember thinking, is this real? And there's something very succinct about the sounds and the smells of poverty and of just life at a totally, I'd never had the chance to experience what it was to actually connect with that.
Yeah.
So I'm in this community, and they're showing us, what they've been doing, and I'm meeting all these gracious people. And this woman invites me into her home, and I sit on the step of her home, and her home is, probably 10 feet by 10 feet. And she had the grace to share her story with me. And I remember sitting there listening, and I had a translator, and I'm watching her. And I was so humbled by the fact that this woman would trust me with her story. And she explained to me about what it was like to be a single mom with 5 children living on $1 a day in a community that was on the edge of a mountain, and the water would come and wash everything away, and the rats were always, all those things. And I went back that night to my hotel and sat in my room, and the first feeling I had, which a lot of people will often have, is I just felt overwhelmed. Like it was just,
Yeah, that does
whoa,
happen, yeah.
this is just too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just overwhelmed by this. I don't even know how to process. And I was crying, and I was angry at myself, at God, at the world, at injustice. And I was trying to figure out how to begin to put me back together again, which it sounds kind of like a weird, selfish thing, but I felt like I had just had some kind of a holy encounter, and I was trying to figure out what was next. And on the floor in that room that night, began to get the idea for what it could look like to begin to offer an experience like that, where with, in particular, Canadian youth, to come and to partner with communities like that and to do something tangible with them, but not as we're the good people coming to help you.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
we
because
want-
that's
the
you have to be-
messianic, I
yeah,
don't do
you have to
that.
be careful
not
with
at
that.
all.
Yeah.
No, it was
Yeah.
about actually them just coming in and working with the family and learning. And so we created this, everything from you spend a day and you're learning from the family how to cook and what goes on in their world, and like it just became an integrative experience. So that started what became the entire humanitarian arm of Live Different, which is what Live Different is often known for now. And so to date, I don't know, thousands and thousands of
Amazing.
young people have.
Yeah.
And can I just commend you that, especially being a person of color, this sort of messianic swoop in, we're going to save the day. It just does not go over well, and it causes more damage than not.
Totally.
And so I love that you are coming alongside and partnering, working with, and not only that, but realizing that in fact these people could empower and uplift and
Yes.
inspire
100%.
us. And
Yeah.
we're kind of deficient in how we see the world.
absolutely.
So we're the ones that are gaining that. I love that. Yeah, I love that.
We strongly believe that right from the beginning, it had to be an equal partnership
Yeah.
with the people, and so we worked with the community leaders, and that led me into working in garbage dumps. So I, in the town that we were working in called Sosua, just close to the Puerto Plata airport, I had a gentleman come and ask me if we would be willing to come and meet the people that work in this garbage dump, and so I went and brought a group of people with me on one of our trips, and we began to work alongside of these people in the garbage dump. So there are up to 100 people in this particular garbage dump at any time that they collect recyclables and they sell them. But they are often stateless. They live in totally fragile contexts in life. Many of them have come out of child slavery situations from
Yes.
Haiti. And but they welcome us in, and we come and work alongside them for the day. And so the whole thing that happened with me at the garbage dump, once I started to do that with our groups, is everything changed for me in terms of how I began to see what dignity was about. Because when we work with these people in the garbage dumps, one of the things is we come up and we introduce ourselves, and now I get kisses on the cheek every time I go into the dump, and I have all these friends, and but dignity when you truly see someone with dignity, dignity looks you in the eye and says, I see you.
Yeah.
I hear your story. And one of the things that has always struck me when we've brought groups there is they've always been nervous beforehand because they think, I'm not going to be able to relate to people. I'm going to be uncomfortable. The smell of the garbage. And it's all those things, and that's okay. But once they start conversations with people and they realize that they actually have so much more in common than what separates them,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
But I think that, though, is, I mean, the whole point of why I love Jesus, why I follow him, is that that's how Jesus sees us. Like, it's that sense of he looks at us with dignity and value,
Yeah.
no matter what color, no matter what weight,
Yeah.
no matter if my hair, like today, the humidity has killed it,
Yeah.
and I have some issues and insecurities about me, that's how he sees us.
Totally.
And so you're actually helping people understand the way that Jesus sees people in that, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, I think that is so key.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't. We
Yeah.
have put a lot of walls up, and we
Yeah.
know that from what's happening in the world today.
Yeah.
The divisions of people based on socioeconomic, color, racism, all kinds of things. We're seeing that, and that's a big thing. And I would say for you, like Joe, for sort of this millennial age, I think those are important things, right? To teach them, to help them understand about seeing people that way.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you know somebody and you know it's the same, back to the stories. If you know the story of the person who's working in a garbage dump, it changes everything about how you understand that whole group of people that they're a part of. It doesn't mean you're so educated now and you know all of the, I mean, some people maybe come back with thinking they know all the things.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, it's when we say we're going to cross into somebody else's story
Yeah.
and be in it for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Yeah. So in that garbage dump, there was a woman that had a little toddler on her hip. And she was walking around, and we would actually throw community parties in the garbage dump off to the side. We would do big pig roasts and everything
Wow.
with these people, and we'd set up speakers, and we'd have a dance party on the hill. And there's a woman there who had this little girl on her hip, and she was the cutest little thing, but never thought much of it. And I got back to Canada, and this was in 2008, and I got a phone call saying that that woman had passed away suddenly, and that little girl had been sent to Haiti, and had been in a community in Haiti in the fall of 2008 that had actually, it was in Gonaïves, and there was massive mudslides. There's a huge hurricane, and her aunt, who she was staying with, managed to escape the mudslides and get out. But they didn't know where she was, and that led me to make a decision on a journey to begin to find this little girl. And so through a series of events, I eventually, in July of 2009, found this little girl's grandma and had a conversation with her grandma about the possibility of trying to adopt her and bring her to Canada. And that would be so awesome if that was like, and we just walked off into the
And
sunset
it
and
didn't-
cue
yeah.
the Disney music now. But what did end up happening was we started it, and but then the Haiti earthquake happened, and we just finished registering all of our papers in Haiti a few days before the earthquake, and all of our papers were lost. And sadly, all of the judge and a bunch of people lost their lives in it. Eventually, everything got shut down, and all the papers that we had were declared ineligible for adoption, and things just began to progress and progress and progress. And over the course of that, my marriage fell apart, and for a lot of reasons. And I found myself living in Dominican Republic with a child that was stateless, and that I couldn't leave, and I had to rearrange my life again. And so that became what is now, here we are 8 years later, and my daughter's still not yet in Canada as of the
Wow.
taping of this show.
Wow.
But it's been a long journey. But through all that, and I wrote a book, you can find in the book, through all that, one of the things that I keep coming back to is I have to keep reminding myself every moment of every day, what story are you going to believe, Crystal? Are you going to continue to tell yourself the story of your life is nothing but loss? You've only experienced all these things and there's been all this injustice. Or are you going to choose the story that is the truth, and the story that is that there's still a purpose and a plan and a hope and a future for your life and for the life of your child, and that you are here for something more? And some days I feel really great at that story, and other days I have to keep on reminding myself moment
Yeah.
by moment.
Yeah.
And so I have come to realize that the power of the story that we're choosing to believe, we will tell stories all of our lives, but the most powerful stories that we will ever tell are the ones that we tell ourselves
Yeah.
about what's possible.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? We are going to continue this conversation on our website because there's so much that you have to offer, and I think for us, just for for story and how to communicate. But that when you think back to the Bible that you gave Andrew and what you had put in and written, it's like that impressed on you the same truth for you.
Yeah.
What you wrote for him actually was for you.
Yeah.
And I think
100%.
as
Yeah.
we listen to you, we see God's faithfulness in that. And so, we'll be praying for you with your daughter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thanks for encouraging us as we as well are storytellers and have lots to share. It's just really encouraging to hear what what to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for being with us. Well, we're so glad to our viewers that you started your week off with us here at See Hear Love. For more on Crystal and her work, to read our blog posts and thoughts on the show, or to ask us any questions on anything that we discussed today, or if you just need some prayer, head over to our website at seehearlove.com, or if you're already on it, just go to our homepage and connect with us. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where we share behind-the-scenes pictures and footage and content that's not on our show. So like us, love us, follow us. We'd love for you to do that. So from all of us here at See Hear Love, have a great week, and know that you're seen, heard, and deeply loved by God.